I'm here with Josh, and we wanted to just have a little conversation on the new moon about some powerful things we're calling in. And
Hi. What's up, everybody? I'm Josh Holland, and yeah, we've been experiencing some really magical occurrences, huh?
Yeah.
Like, for instance, just behind us, we called in some energy, right? And we saw dolphins.
Just right now, right here, right behind us.
Yeah. If you're looking in the background, you might see some more. And I think it's the coolest. Every time you and I connect, there's something cool that comes out of it, that happens. And even something as simple as we were walking from the Bulletproof Cafe to where we are now, and there was a lady behind us. I forget her name.
Yeah, I forget her name too.
Laura or something like that. Anyway, she recognized your voice, she recognized who you were, and that was just the most awesome experience for me to also see, because this is someone who follows your work, and I don't think it's a coincidence that she was just behind us with her kids, and we were discussing about ways you and I can work together.
And we were talking about bringing healing and high vibrations to kids and to the younger generation. And she came up with all of her kids. And she said she brought one of her kids to the sound bath. So I was like, okay, that's confirmation to bring healing and all this technology and biohacking to kids and the younger generation. So I wanted to ask Josh to tell us a little bit about what biohacking is.
Yeah, good question, good point. So I just recently relaunched my website for anybody interested in checking me out. It's www.joshuajholland.com. And on my website, what I'm doing is I've created this video intro that kind of explains what biohacking is, at least from my perspective. And I feel like it's pretty concise, but I'll try to explain right now for you and for the people. So it's kind of like a modern twist or term for being a guinea pig, right? And
that's the truth.
Right. And it's like, well, why is that even a thing, right? You could also say being a canary in a coal mine, which is another common expression for people who are sensitive to certain things, right? And they would send canaries through a coal mine and determine if it was safe to go within the coal mine or not. With biohacking, it's basically using your body, using yourself as a test subject to sort of hack or to try to identify what things may be working for you or won't work for you. So for instance, I like to figure out what helps me to sleep better, because I understand the importance of sleep. I try to identify, I have this continuous glucose monitor on the back of my arm, and this is another cool way to figure out what foods I eat, how I exercise, how I sleep, how that affects my glucose in my body. And this helps me to better work with people when they ask me, hey Josh, what's the best diet or what's the best workout? And I go, well, these styles or methods are best for kind of the overall general population, but if you really want to know what works best for you, try X, Y, and Z. Okay, so it's a kind of a long-winded, roundabout way of explaining biohacking, but I think everybody has a different term.
So let me ask you, what are the benefits of biohacking?
The benefits can be, right? Because, I think some people can take it way too far. Some people can maybe end up damaging themselves from trying to test too many things. But I think the benefits is to really optimize your performance, to maybe optimize your sleep, optimize your health, optimize maybe your mental stability, because it doesn't have to always be about fitness. It doesn't have to always be about body optimization or body composition. It could be very much like you want to find ways to feel energy. Maybe there's ways you could use biohacking to receive the energy that you emit from your sound healing. Some people are so caught up and don't realize how affected they are by our environment, which is known as epigenetics. But when you can learn to strip that back, do something as simple as I don't know, you could call it, what do they got, like a hyperbaric, not a hyperbaric chamber, what is it called? The chamber's sensory deprivation.
Yes.
So if you practice sensory deprivation, they have tanks for that, and once you go inside that and all the senses are taken away, for instance, you see no light, you hear no sounds, you feel like you're floating, so they call it like an anti-gravitation experience, or a float tank. When you take all of the senses away for a moment, like let's say an hour or 90 minutes, you may start to understand when you come out of that just how much and how impactful everything around us is, because every little sound after that is magnified times 100. So that might allow you to really dive into meditation, to sound healing. And I think I use biohacking to kind of figure out what works best for the majority of people.
And what tools of biohacking have worked best for you?
Oh, that's a tough question. That's a tough question. I mean, actually, it's an easy question. It's a good question, but it's harder to answer because I don't think there's one thing other than maybe, if I had to choose one, I would say awareness, self-awareness. Self-awareness is probably the biggest takeaway from everything I've learned with biohacking. And from that, I think sleep and recovery is probably the next biggest level of awareness I've adapted or I've learned throughout all this. After that, I would say consumption. So food and drinks and even energy, consuming energy. After that, and I'm kind of going through my 5 pillars for optimum health and wellness.
Okay, I love that.
And it just so happens that number 1 out of everything is awareness. Self-awareness. And that looks like a lot, right? Even just understanding how we tick, right? Like what makes me tick? What makes me feel the best every day? And then what group of people around me help me feel the best? And that's kind of pillar 3, right? In the consumption piece. But then getting good quality sleep. Like I just did an experiment last night. I happened to be up a little bit later than I normally am, and I wanted to see, and I also ate some foods that I don't normally eat, and so I wanted to see, like, how does that affect me? So I used my continuous glucose monitor that's installed in my arm. I used that, and I noticed that my blood glucose spiked dramatically just from eating a certain amount of food and being up later than I normally am.
What did you eat?
So it was kind of like
No,
it
you
was.
don't have to
No,
tell.
it's fine. It was like Mexican themed cuisine.
Okay.
And it was rice and beans and different sauces. And I don't know what the quality of the food is.
Yeah.
I normally cook myself. I know exactly what goes into it. So I imagine that there was some level of vegetable oils, which I know that is not good for my biology and probably for the multitude of people. But maybe that was cooking there. I didn't ask, or I didn't say, oh, thank you, but no thank you. I just decided, like, just go with the flow.
Yes.
And that's going with the flow is what we talked about with our, drawing of the energy earlier, right? And I feel like I thrive best by going with the flow.
Same, I do too.
The flow, right? This is the flow.
This is the flow. And then one more question I wanted to ask. So they say people want to try biohacking. What can you do? Like, how can they begin to experience it? What is like an easy way, like maybe 3 things or one thing that they can do to start experimenting with their body and their energy?
Yeah, whenever I answer questions like this, I try to think in terms of like lowest hanging fruit.
Yeah.
And then the sort of its opposite, which would be sort of high tech and highbrow.
Yeah.
So let's say maybe start with something as simple as meditation. And if you're someone that's maybe not doing well, maybe you tried meditation, maybe try different types of meditation. Another low-hanging fruit would be practicing breath. So breath work is huge. It's well talked about right now, and it's kind of poignant and trending right now. But breath work is huge. There's a book I'm reading right now by James Nestor called Breath. Pretty simple. So I would look into that. And then one more low-hanging fruit would be maybe there's this book called The Fat Burn Fix by Dr. Kate Shanahan. Kate spelled with a C. That book will talk to you all about like how to optimize your food and nutrition, things of that nature. So those would be like the low-hanging fruit pieces. I think if you want to take it up to another level,
maybe, take us up a level.
Maybe try something like a sensory deprivation tank. Maybe get a product called Brain Tap, or like this will take you into a meditative state. You could look into New Calm, or you could visit a studio like Upgrade Labs, which is just right up the street here in Santa Monica. They have one in Beverly Hills. My studio is known as a Biohacking Center. We've got a lot of these cool things as well.
What's the name of your? The studio is in New York. What's the name of it?
It's called System Fit, and the STEM in System Fit is STIM for stimulation or stimulus. And so System Fit, spelled SYSTIMFIT, is a biohacking studio on the East Coast, but I'm hoping to bring more of that to the West Coast.
Yes, please.
Yeah, I mean, there's obviously a lot here in the West Coast already, but I think the way I do my studio is I think easier to kind of consume, if you will.
Yeah. And then one more thing I want to ask.
Sure.
Is can you give us an example of the breathwork you're talking about? I know there's an airplane up above.
Yeah.
And sorry guys, I'm holding the phone with my hand. Can you give us an experience of it?
Yeah, like something we were talking about earlier. My buddy Jesse Salas and my friend Dr. Eric Goodman, they do a program called Foundation Training. And we were just talking about how that's really good with decompression breathing and allowing the breath and the activation of the different muscles that are involved with breathing, how to activate certain parts that don't get activated normally with a shallow breathing. And it goes beyond just deep breathing and activating your diaphragm. It's more of this kind of 360-degree expansion. And that's really huge. In fact, I'm going to be hoping to do a project with Dr. Eric Goodman and Jesse to help sort of undo my scoliosis. I have a slight case of scoliosis, and I think a lot of us actually do to some degree. But you can use breath work to kind of hone in on the parts that are less activated or weak, and you can help to strengthen that. So that would be one way.
Show us one breath. Like, can you give an example?
I can, but I think it would be harder to do right now. I would say, here's one thing that I do.
Show us.
Okay, I'll give you an example. So maybe you take your hands and squeeze your sides.
Okay, squeeze your sides.
Okay, and you want to feel your fingertips and your thumbs. The thumbs are feeling the back, so the core, the low back. You want to place your thumbs there, and your fingers. You want to feel the obliques and as much of your abdominals as you can. And then when you take a breath, you want to feel expansion in all parts of your hands. So you want to feel the expansion here, you want to feel the expansion here, and you want to feel the expansion out this way. And so you can really do that by, I think, the tactile cue of having your hands on your entire core. Think of it like a tire. Your hands on the entire core will allow you to go, oh, wait a minute, I really feel like I'm only expanding here and here and less back here. So that's maybe one just very simple, quick opportunity. And what will that do? If you're practicing this at home, what that will do is immediately help you to become more aware, which goes back to that first thing I talked about, awareness. So everything is drawn back to or comes back to awareness. Yeah. So that's the ultimate biohack in my humble opinion.
Oh, I love that. Thank you. Yeah. Thank you for sharing that with us.
Sure.
And one other biohack is sound baths.
Of course. We've got to put that in there. Of course, yeah.
All right, guys. Thank you so much for talking with us.
Thank you for having me. And everyone, listen, She is a beacon of joy, of energy, and I think we're going to be exploring ways to kind of work together, collaborate, so that I can also experience what you do, so that you can experience what I do, and so that we can ultimately share what we have, what we're building for everyone else. And so if you have questions, feel free to hit me up. I'm on Instagram at Joshua J Holland, just like my website. Pretty simple. And System Fit, I also have a podcast. So that's something else that I'm hoping to get her on my podcast. I'm going to interview her on my podcast. And my podcast is all about health, wellness, fitness, lifestyle, and biohacking. So a lot of these concepts we just talked about now in this video, I explore lots of those, break it down even further in the podcast. So if you like podcasts, check us out. It's Simply Walk the Talk. Okay? So yeah.
Great, thank you so much.
Of course, thank you.
Bye guys.